Have you ever had the urge to hug a toilet before you had to speak in public? Have you? Have you ever had the urge to barf up Brussels sprouts because you didn't want to stand up and say something in public? Well, I did for over 30 years, and tonight I can help you if you have those urges. I really can. I sincerely mean that. To me, though, it was more than just barfing up. It was a heart that beat faster than a speeding bullet. It was armpits and palms that sweated streams of water. It was knees that could crack open a coconut. It was that bad. And for 30 years, I experienced that syndrome of not being wanting to speak in public. It all started, I think, in 5th grade, and that's me on the right side there, right below the teacher in that striped shirt. But it was more than just a fear of public speaking. It was also a stammer that I developed in 5th grade. I don't know why I developed it, but it was there. And it just was very, very painful. So for this reason, I became a non-communicator. And in high school, I was voted the most quiet person in my class. Can you imagine? The homecoming king, the captain of the football team, being the quietest person in my class. Well, they said, well, John is just a quiet person. He doesn't say anything. That's okay, you know? But it wasn't okay. It was very painful for me. In those days, we didn't have speech pathologists like Patty Lester to come around and test us for speech fluency. They didn't exist. And so those of us, and there were 2 others in my class too who had a fluency problem, we just didn't say anything. We just became quiet people. We just whispered. We didn't want to stand up and say anything in public. We just were non-communicators. You know, some of our world's famous people were stutterers like Marilyn Monroe and Darth Vader, James Earl Jones, and King George VI, and Sir Winston Churchill were all stutterers. It affects boys more than it does girls, and it happens to a lot of people. 1% of the population has a stuttering problem. They really do, you see, yes. Well, how painful is it? How painful is it? How painful was it for me? I would choose having a root canal done without Novocaine, having a hook extracted from my eyelid, other than having to stand up and say something in public. It was that painful. Also, it was painful just having to speak on a phone, just talking on a phone. I could not call up a girl. I could not call up anybody because I just couldn't get the words out, you see. So it was painful. And asking a girl out for a date didn't happen. Homecoming king. Didn't have a date for the homecoming. Just couldn't ask a girl. But I had a good friend. His name was Clarence. And Clarence had a 1949 Dodge. And Clarence arranged all my dates for me. He said, John, do you want a date? And I said, well, sure. Okay, I'll pick you up at 7 o'clock. In his 1949 Dodge, in the back seat was a girl. A lot of girls wanted to go out with me. And thanks to Clarence, I discovered girls in his 1949 Dodge. Well, this followed me all through undergraduate school, all through graduate school, all through postgraduate school. Can you imagine this pain of having to stand up and speak in public? I couldn't shake it. I just could not shake it. And I didn't know what to do. You know, well, I thought, what can I do to change this behavior of mine? What can I do? So I think I'll join the Foreign Legion. And the Foreign Legion for me was the Peace Corps. Because I thought, well, if I have to speak in another language, in Spanish, for example, maybe it'll go away. And I did really gain my confidence in the Peace Corps. I'll have to say, that's me on the far left in the top picture, and on the far right, second from the end. Peace Corps did wonders for me, but still, it didn't always go away. But ironically, I could teach okay. I mean, because I think I had it done so many times, I could teach a group without any stuttering problems, you see. I could do it. And I don't know why. I think it's because I just did it more often. And that was a clue for the cure. Just do something and keep doing it, you see. But every once in a while, it would crop up. And I can recall one time in Iowa, I gave a presentation to a bunch of adult educators. And a guy at mid-presentation came to me and said, John, I counted your OKs, and there were 65. You see, this toilet bowl kept coming up. And I said, well, what can I do? He said, what you ought to do is you should join Toastmasters. Toastmasters, and I did. So in Toastmasters, there's 2 great qualities about Toastmasters. They have you speak every time you go, which is exactly what I needed. I didn't have to cover it up anymore. I could stand and speak, and then I had a friend in Toastmasters. They're all your friends. They tell you, John, you know, you didn't whisper very much today, or John, you really need to cut out those okays, you see. So what happened? Well, believe it or not, public speaking next to my wife became my second passion. Yeah. And I began helping other people improve their public speaking. And I helped them put their wow in their public speaking because of Toastmasters. It did a great thing for me. Well, this is what I can do for you. First of all, you have to change your mindset from that speaking in public is painful to speaking in public is really a joy, and you have to enjoy it. Just like laughter yoga, you see. You have to learn to enjoy public speaking, and that's the number one goal of my public speaking class. You got to enjoy it. The second thing is you have to speak as often as you can. Every opportunity to speak in public, that's what you need to do. Stand up, get off your feet, and even though you might not do as well as first, if you do it long enough, just like skiing, skateboarding, driving, anything, the more you do it, the better you get at it. Raising buffalo, the more you do it, the better you get at it. And then the last thing is you need a friend, like my wife or my daughter. They're very candid. Say, John, you did lousy tonight. And those guys were sleeping in the back of the room. Didn't you know that? And they'll tell me that, you see. So you need somebody to point out your flaws and your idiosyncrasies and your peccadillos. And my wife is the best one at that. Well, so here's this hole. And a guy is in the hole. And the hole represents fear of public speaking. And no one can help him out of the hole. He's shouting, help, get me out, get me out, get me out. But no one helps him. And then I come along, and I jump in the hole with him, and he said, what are you doing here? I said, I can help you get out of this hole because I've been here before. And this is how you do it, rung by rung. Joy in public speaking. Get a friend in public speaking. Have somebody tell you what's wrong, but do it as often as you can. And if you need a friend in public speaking, join Toastmasters, or I can be there for you too. Yes, I can. No longer do we have to hug that toilet anymore, people. No longer do we have to do that.